Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, Kramer doing quite a bit of damage there with that Xayah. Triple Infernal really helping to push that out pretty consistently. But Afreeca come up with the victory in the end after MVP started off the game with total control. But it was pretty sloppy. It was rough from both of these teams. Can't really give them that much praise as far as the cleanliness is concerned.
Yeah, no coach is going to be beaming after that game. There were definitely some mistakes on both sides, but Xayah largely was able to shoulder the burden of the early game mistakes around the Cho'Gath lane, the side of Afreeca Freecs, and they went on to win. So again, they can go 2-0, 2-0. Does put their fate in their own hands. The MVP here, who will it be? Imagine one of the bot laners is going to be Tucson, and that means he joins teammate Kuro at 900 points.
I mean, we're talking about the Galio, really hard to stand out with that Galio pick, but with Rakan, with a record that Tucson has with this pick, it's not too surprising that his flashy plays and fearless engages got him another MVP win, so tied with 9 wins against Kuro, as you say. It's a game 2, maybe a game 3, so opportunity still there for the Afreeca Freecs members to try to inch out in front of each other.
I mean, nothing good happened this game that didn't begin with Tucson. Tucson had to shoulder all of the engage. He would initiate, the follow would come. That was his job, but he did it with such aplomb that it's hard not to give him the MVP, and we also saw the level 1 laning phase trade that gave them a massive lead in an already lopsided lane. Tucson was there, Tucson engaged, he now moves to 6-0 on the Rakan for the season. Not all of that with Kramer either. Lover's bot lane is a source of power for Afreeca, and it's not always about the Xayah. Honestly, it's usually about the Rakan.
And play aside an MVP, gonna have to try something a bit different when it comes down to this game 2 draft. Just too many odd things being thrown into the mix. The Fiora, the one that worked out to a point in the early game, but the Gragas, the Shen, the first pick Rise for Ian, all just quite bizarre. They weren't able to maintain that lead that they got for themselves, but we're gonna have a player change coming through on the side of the Afreeca Freecs, and it's gonna be Spirit taking a step out. We'll see Mowgli in.
And Mowgli's been good. The Nocturne game was probably a step too far. I think he got inspiration from Spirit, who had played 20 games of Nocturne in the past week on patch 8.5. Let's leave Nocturne in the future, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but we're slightly living in the past for today and tomorrow. No Nocturne. Nocturne can be a next week thing. Nocturne Galio on 8.5. Very excited about that. Probably not going to see it here. We might see some fun hovers, though, as Beyond wants to start the mind games after game 1 was not a career highlight for him, shall we say.
No, really wasn't. The 2.5 items at 30 some odd minutes into the game, just not a great look there for Beyond. Had some good plays, obviously the pathing in the early game to help secure the kills onto the Fiora. That was excellent by him. But everything else just left a lot to be desired. But here we go, draft up for game number 2. Afreeca over onto that blue side.
See what Afreeca want to target. Sejuani is normally a ban against MVP because of the conventional junglers, by far Beyond's best performing champion. 7-1 on the season. ADD's Gangplank will get the respect as well. MVP might do well to ban away the Rakan, as that has been something frustrating to deal with. Could try to split the duo, but I think then already you're getting into dangerous territory of overthinking things. We've seen the Star-Crossed lovers this week a couple of times and hasn't necessarily been something to write home about.
Still the Taliyah ban away. Being focused there onto Kuro. Seems like MVP really just don't want to deal with him on that pick. Has been very powerful. We've been seeing a lot of mid laners pick up the Taliyah, but specifically focused out here against Kuro. And Zach going to come through from the Afreeca Freecs.
Seem to be setting up for a first pick jungler with a ban like Zach. Been a big pick for Beyond so far, so first pick Sejuani is something that seems very likely. Could also ban it away and go for the Skarner, as those are the 2 big meta picks that are available. Mowgli this season has tried his hand at a few different champions, but as we mentioned, the Nocturne was the choice in the previous game.
They banned 3 junglers on red side last time. Did we see them ban another one? And yes, we do. It's going to be the Skarner. I would have banned the Gragas. I heard that Beyond is quite good at it. But they go with the Skarner instead. Take that one off the board.
And it feels like Sejuani in trade for the Lovers bot lane might be what happens in this draft, but we'll see what MVP considers the final ban. Could just ban Sejuani and leave the jungle pool pretty narrow. and they will. So top-tier junglers have certainly seen a lot of attention. Olaf is available through this, though, and despite it not being Spirit, Mowgli will jump on the Olaf. Now, Beyond is a Korean Nidalee player, and we saw Kingzone Dragon X respond to the Olaf with a Nidalee and invade. Safe tank junglers do have a number done on them by the Olaf. The Sejuani is usually the best pick to be able to duck over a wall and try to disengage the Olaf. Beyond has his picks. I'd love to see something like the old favorite, the Rek'Sai, would be an interesting choice.
Have not really been seeing that at all.
Beyond is the only Rek'Sai we really have in Korea left. Has played it a little bit over the past year or so, but other than that, it's been heavily deprioritized. So when you see Olaf, you can guess that your comp will be about dive. Why not go ultra safe with the Ezreal?
Yep, just gonna go ahead and lock this one in for Kramer.
So they
See
gave
what they
up.
want to follow up with. You know, Lover's bot lane went over to MVP.
The Galio's still open and could be taken here. It does synergize well with the Olaf.
Yeah, but Kuro really wants to win an MVP.
You know, like, I know that sounds like a crazy thing to say out loud, but Kuro's been pretty brash about how much he wants to win.
Oh,
So
he takes it quite seriously.
despite the Galio being open, they don't go that way. Could just be taken by Ian, but they've never shown any priority on Galio. No games of Galio. They took some Galio bans. Interestingly, would MVP finally show us their first game of Galio? They'll take the Nidalee we mentioned as a matchup into the Olaf. That means they would desperately want to get a strong counter pick to ensure they have 2 winning lanes for the Nidalee to jungle around.
Well, if they can get a nice start again, this time with the Nidalee running away with the game, going to be a bit more easy there for the side of MVP. But Gnar and Ornn both going to be taken off the board, so top lane going to be focused out by both sides. So far, we'll see if they're going to continue and just ban away 4 top laners again.
The Rise ban would be smart from either side, but from MVP, unless they want to take it first rotation on the red side, because it is that power laner that can push up. While you might say that Nidalee can gank it, does get turned around very easily if Olaf is there for a counter gank. So for now, no mid lane bans at all outside of the Talia.
If you are banned away by MVP, so maybe a tank in the top lane there for ADD going back onto that duty. So Cho'Gath, perhaps something that he would want to get his hands on.
Camille available, and Camille is usually the blind pick in scenarios like this. See if ADD wants to play the Camille. Hasn't really shown much priority on it or success on it on the season. Usually a Cho'Gath man, and that's why it was banned away. Where is the safety from MVP? They desperately want a winning lane, so you'd imagine they'd choose a safe top or mid laner at this pick. And they'll go for, with a lot of decision, eventually the Rise, because Rise can act as a top laner for Afreeca and might be the sort of pick that ADD doesn't have a comfortable answer into. So mid lane Rise coming through from Ian, being a great pick from them. They first picked it on blue side in game number 1.
That one was a bit surprising to see.
We want to see more dive, usually from Afreeca, but we've already seen 1 game of the Anivia come through from Kuro. Matchup into Rise can be pretty punishing. You can actually do some great harass when he tries to walk up if he's predictable. He gets hit by the Flash Frost, so Anivia for his 2nd game is very interesting on the side of Afreeca.
So we'll go ahead and see this one yet again from Kuro.
Could definitely be a Camille for a safe blind pick top laner for Keen. Shown mastery of this pick in his Everate Winners days especially.
It's definitely Kuro wanting to get that MVP. And we're just going to go ahead and pile on the AP a little bit more as the Vladimir gets locked in blind for the top lane.
Interesting choice. Of all the options left, I wouldn't have seen Vlad as the top lane blind pick because Camille exists and has been overlooked so far in this draft. And it might be a top lane Rise into the Vlad and then Azir mid lane into the Anivia.
Well, maybe MVP just bamboozled Afreeca, and they have.
There's actually a winning lane matchup for Rise in the top side. Very interesting. We've only seen it, I believe, from Keen this season in the Vlad matchup. And now they have Azir, who can harass out the Anivia, needs to walk up to channel her R. This is a really nice flex from MVP. Not the sort of team you usually associate with first a blind pick Fiora, and then Rise in the top lane. But ADD showing us his straps, showing us something new. And now, it's a very surreal double AP draft on both sides. Comeback 2012, we're back.
I mean, triple AP on the side of MVP. They have the Nidalee out of the jungle as well. Xayah going to be the sole source of that 80 damage coming through. Interesting strategy here from MVP. Certainly changing things up and catching us off guard, and almost certainly catching off Afreeca off their guard as well.
I was just so surprised to see the blind pick Vlad, and it does kind of walk into the top lane rise. You never give respect to ADD for playing. ADD reinventing himself at the end of the season. Seems to be an annual tradition. Now has the Rise versus Vlad matchup. We do mention that both our junglers get in there when it comes to counter jungling. In the early game, the Anivia ends up getting counterpicked. In some ways, it's a bit of a rough laning phase against the Azir, and then the bot lane, which now is an afterthought. Xayah and Rakan going to be worn by MVP this time. I imagine a lot more safety from Afreeca Freecs in the 2v2.
All right, well, Afreeca, again, they want that 2-0 to move forward, to go against BBQ, to find another one and secure that second place spot over KT Rolster. They can close it out right here. They keep those hopes alive. MVP, though, they want a better early in the game. They want to close it out. Let's see if they can do it as we jump onto the Rift. The MVP fans may not have won the fan vote at the beginning of the broadcast, but they are certainly voicing their support here in the studio as we continue to fill up as we go deeper into the evening. 6 p.m. here on a Saturday, St. Patrick's Day.
Not sure how many of our largely Korean fan base observe St. Paddy's Day traditions.
How many of you are Irish? Let's take a poll from the audience.
No profiling, please, Achilles.
I think I might be the only one holding my hand up at the end of that question.
And you are also loosely Irish.
Yes, this is true.
A lot of fun going on here. I believe that sign said he just got off the army to come join these games.
What a great way to celebrate getting out.
And we got the birds in the mid lane, so they're rocking out.
Both of them birds of prey. We'll see which one comes out on top.
We're so close to Birdio coming out as well. We are. BBQ Olivers cannot wait for that to happen. Oh my god, it's frat boy Olaf Chroma this time.
All right.
It's been a while since this Chroma's been used. It's my favorite Chroma for Olaf. That's even further removed from Korean culture.
Yeah.
Oh, weird and wonderful once again. Afreeca just really want to make this Anivia a thing. Ended up being flexed upon. Nice stuff by MVP to outthink them there. See how the bot lane does, though, because we're expecting Kramer and Tucson to be a lot more respectful. They haven't been able to get to lane early to get the fast level 2, so they've given up on getting much lane control against Xayah and Rakan. So defensive bot lane. Mid lane now is going to be pushed in by Azir. Only good news story you'd have to say is that Olaf is going to be very self-sufficient, but on paper it's 3 losing lanes for the side of Afreeca Freecs in terms of the very standard 1v1 or 2v2.
Gonna have to put in the extra work to try to get themselves ahead. If not, just to try to minimize the losses here as they go through the laning phase.
I guess Mowgli just says, good luck guys, I'm going to power farm. And going to be his approach to this game. When it comes to the runes, because we do have some non-standard stuff, it's going to be the Unsealed Spellbook on Takuro. Bit of laning insurance, then can teleport out.
Beyond is jungling very aggressively, going down low, does have the heal off the E.
And the smite.
But an invasion here from Mowgli could prove deadly as he starts pushing around over to those Krugs. Ward comes through, Beyond's going to spot this, but no further aggression there from the Olaf.
And honestly, with the lanes we mentioned, just finding the enemy jungler is probably the most he can do. Once he starts walking up and throwing axes, Vlad, Azir will both be able to get there before Afreeca's friendlies can, so smart of him to just go for the actual warding, not the battle warding that we usually talk about with both Olaf and Nidalee. Mid lane's going to be basically Kuro trying to be as non-committal as possible. He waits till level 6, then the most he walks up the lane is to channel his R, moves back, and uses the Q to go for the wave clear. But here is Mowgli, pops the Predator.
Okay, yeah, he's going to be zipping his way through. Tucson trying to get the lockdown, does find that Q in. One more hit with lockdown. Max, can he get the auto? Yes, he does. Into the reckless swing. Max going so very low. One more hit, he'll do it, and the axe flies straight and true. Mowgli finds the first blood.
Really well communicated by Afreeca. They knew there was a ward in that brush, but the Predator was used just as he would have been spotted on the vision. They get the final auto attack to provoke the concussive blows. Very decisive stuff, and with these lanes you need to be, as in mid lane, almost passive procced by Kuro.
Yeah, that's a bit of a risky one there. Kuro will hold on to that for now, as TuSin just dodges out casually on that spear.
Should be mentioned that
walking away.
Was not likely to die there because it would have run out of damage to kill him through the egg. As in the replay, again, the timing here. This is a losing lane. MVP predictably were pushed up, but Predator into concussive blows was enough to make the call. This is some veteran shot calling by these three very experienced players. Very nicely done. Obviously, it's Spirit. Spirit out, Mowgli in, so two very experienced players, but you get what I'm trying to say. Kuro just returns to mid, trying to make the Anivia a thing. With the changes to Archangels, you can understand why any champion who used to build tier is being considered more than before. Not necessarily seeing the great synergy or reason, because usually the wall, undoing an ability from the enemy team, is one of the big reasons you go for the Anivia. If you see a Scion, for example, you can answer with the wall. Can be very good if you have a Gnar on your top lane to set up the Gnar ultimates into the temporary terrain, but I think just Kuro loving the Anivia and solo queue recently.
Yeah. We'll see if he can maybe at some point deny a Shurima shuffle by walling right in front of himself and locking the Azir on the other side. Be quite interesting. My wall is better than your wall.
I'm just excited for next levels. I'm big on the next levels, so there's something that I'm not seeing. I would love to see it from Kuro, who, as we mentioned, desperately wants to win MVP.
And win against MVP as well. Got that double victory in his eyes.
That's what it's all about. Stack up the victories.
Beat MVP to become the MVP. He wants sole possession of it this time. He wants the back-to-back and also the solo win. Does not want to be sharing it with TuSin.
Been really impressed with Mowgli's pathing so far this game when it came to actually getting an invasion ward down and then making the smart gank around bot lane. Let's talk a little bit about this lane. I mentioned that Ryze is seen as a lane counterpick to the Vlad, and to some people that might sound weird just because, you know, Vlad walks up and queues and theoretically you think the health trade will go his way. Because Ryze has the on-command shield, he actually sets up winning trades every time Vlad tries to get into the transfusion range, his Q range, and basically out-trades the Vladimir at every point and can go Abyssal Mask without losing any power. And as you notice, Keen has to go first item into the Spectre's Cowl just to even go respectfully in trades. So ADD, he can go a standard Ryze build, tier into Catalyst, into the Abyssal Mask, could even get risky and go for the Rod of Ages, but probably going to be the Abyssal Mask in this triple AP comp on the side of MVP, not lose out. And when you actually try to take aggressive trades as the Vladimir, you just straight up lose. So it is seen as a counter pick. That means that Keen's life is a little bit more tricky than he imagined when he drafted Vlad as a top lane.
Yeah, so far, though, the punish on the CS hasn't been there. So blue buff take tries to come through here, but we'll still go ahead and start peeling back. Keen comes in from the top side, gets a bit of damage in onto ADD, but gets locked down by that Rune Prison. Kuro will be able to get the blue buff through all of this, but takes quite a bit of damage there from Ian, just punishing him with a Sand Soldier.
One of the oldest counterplays to Anivia wasn't to kill the Anivia, it was to kill the blue buff, as that means that she's not able to have the lane control.
Well, they messed up.
She desperately tried, and they were behind. At the end of the day, they haven't been able to play around top side till now, and the vision wasn't as set up as they needed it to be.
And Kramer is doing a really good job of prepping the CS for the turret. Excellently done.
He's pretty good. As this time Mowgli doesn't have a ward to respect, but will not find something in the bot lane. Probably don't want to gank for tier Cull Ezreal. Not a lot of damage coming out from the Ezreal. Power farming up.
About as little as possible, while still having items. So yeah, gonna take a little while longer before we see that come through.
Oh, I loved a little bit of mana in bot lane.
Plucking his way around there. Max goes in for the pop-up, doesn't find it. Gets those concussive blows procced. Keeps himself nice and safe on the outskirts of the fight, but decent little engage there onto Kramer.
I actually feel really good about trading your wall cooldown for the Shifting Sands cooldown from the Azir. So close to his turret that's not going to be relevant, but if you can recreate that, it does give you gank windows that aren't usually there for Azir in a standard laning phase. Bot lane going as expected. Slightly better than because of the kill involvement, but otherwise This is just the reality of being in the Zyra Khan lane as an Ezreal. But so far, the winning lanes we talked about, 3 winning lanes based on the pure 1v1 and 2v2, have not led to a kill, have not led to an objective takeaway. It's one of those games where Afreeca have been smart at subverting a lot of the expectations of the draft. And if the Italy doesn't get any kill involvement, and none of these early picks actually lead to much, then Afreeca Freecs will feel great about how the first 10 minutes have been able to play out.
I thought we were going to see a roam down to the bottom side, but now it's just going to be the Afreeca Freecs starting up on the Mountain Drake. Beyond have just gone back to base, so this will be a free take by them. So yet again, getting that first dragon rolling through. Kuro now going to be spotted. Comet hits. Another chunk of damage out there from Ian.
Another objective with 3 losing lanes for the side of the Afreeca Freecs. So it's been some really good early jungling from Mowgli to allow this to happen. I'm actually very excited about seeing Afreeca in a best of 5. A shuffle misses from Ian. But it's games like this where I'm like, Mowgli's pretty good, Spirit's pretty good. I'm excited to see the full squad play in a best of 5 where you can use things like watching enemy jungle tendencies. Kuro's not excited about this laning phase because Azir was the last person he wanted to see in the lane.
He got baited into this one.
That was really nicely done by MVP.
It's like he got baited in, the Ryan's got swamped to the top side, and Keen's the one who's coming out with the CS lead here. Kuro's just trying to get by at this point. Throwing down the ultimate. Meanwhile, Beyond hovering around the bottom side of the map. It's going to be the entrance coming through. He takes the spear to the face. Kramer going low. Glacial Fissure not going to connect, and he will be able to walk away with his life in the end. Max almost gets punished as well. No kill on the board there for MVP, but now they gain priority around the bot side of the map.
Really awkward. Beyond hit the spear, but then when he went for the pounce, it was out of range. If he went for the flash pounce, it would have been more of a gap close. End up being a short pounce and no kill onto Kramer. That one seemed dead to rights. Another little victory for Afreeca after the big investment by MVP.
A bit of a brain fade there by me. Of course, the Glacial Fissure is coming from his own teammates, so not trying to kill the Ezreal on the exit, but getting a little too excited there by me. But good stuff by Tucson to help keep him alive, keep everybody locked up in underneath the turret.
Kramer goes back to lane with a little bit more of nothing. It's going to be the Iceborne Gauntlet this game, but no closer to the Mana Moon yet. Not going to be a big damage Ezreal. He has plenty of damage on his team to allow for him to go for the usual utility build. And wow, just running at the Ryze enough to draw out the Realm Warp. You notice Ryze no longer has the advanced vision he did before, so had no idea where the enemy team was.
You're a bully and I don't like you and I'm leaving. That's it.
It's little plays like that that remind us that we have some very intelligent players. Like Keen isn't by no means a veteran, but you go aggressive in scenarios like that, you force the enemy to react because they have incomplete information. So I do like drawing out ultimates for free just from some smart play in the lane by Keen. I feel like our mid lane has been the most talkative we've seen in a while.
They really have been. I would like to see, Kuro recalling and maybe have like the cowbell backing him up as the music starts playing.
Again, final destination, Cowbell Alistair versus Birdio. That's what I'm ready for. Level 1, rush into mid lane. Make it happen. I rewatched the Chicken Dance about 20 times. I enjoyed it so much.
I thought you were going to say you rewatched the Final Destination films. I was going to say, why?
I've never actually watched one of the Final Destination films. I know about them, but I haven't watched them.
That's probably quite good. The first 2 are, like, eh. You know what you're getting, and then from there it just kind of falls off.
See, the closest I got was Scary Movie. That was definitely the scary movies I was looking for.
Oh, okay. For a little pick there onto Tucson. They get a bit of damage, but the Unbreakable doing some work to help keep him alive. Scary Movie, not doesn't live up to the name quite well.
Yeah, the horror genre, not exactly what it was shooting for.
Yeah. I've been hearing great things about the movie Annihilation that has recently come out on Netflix, so I have to watch that. We were supposed to have a movie night, but we got distracted. Ended up making other plans.
You had your undersight thing going on.
That's
so
true.
It got in the way of scheduling, sadly.
That damn undersight. Ruining my movie night.
Well, Kuro is just happy that he's been able to find some farm, and he's been able to wrestle back the lane post-blue buff, as most lanes get better for the Anivia after level 6, and she can just clear very non-committally. Does open herself up for a streamer shuffle play, but Ian missed the first one and hasn't been looking for the next.
Yeah, I don't know how much I would take stock in that happening. Ian, I don't think he wants to make that same mistake again. Be pretty damn embarrassing. Kuro just tries to force him back.
They're just back to
arm's length. Here we go.
They're back to maiming.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this.
Professional game, guys, by the way.
Real pro players.
There were some great clips on Reddit today of Crown and FLICKR having similar fun, but that was in solo queue. This is the top level of competition in Korea.
This is the biggest stage in League of Legends. Other than Worlds and MSI.
What about Rift Rivals, Achilles?
What?
Well, bot lane has been...
I wasn't there. I don't know what that is.
As always this year, Achilles.
To be fair, I couldn't be there. It wasn't that I was asked. I'm not trying to throw Riot under the bus.
Mowgli is going for the counter jungling. Still Frat Boy.
Yet again, foiled by Undersight.
It's true. Undersight has been a killer so far. In this particular game, Beyond is going to go for the power farm Rod of Ages, but sadly hasn't had a kill involvement, and thus going to be at a pretty late time from the jungle. Similar build that Peanut went for. He also went for Rod of Ages to not die to random AoE as the game goes on, and plenty of AoE on the side of Afreeca.
That's something they have quite a bit of. You're the Hemo Plague into the Blizzard coming through there from Kuro. Slowly ripping them apart. Shop Raj going to get tossed out just to keep the wave pushing.
You'll notice that Keen has had to slow down his build because of the matchup. You never want to go for Spirit Visage first anymore on the Rise. Was a meta build about 2 years ago, but after the changes, much more favoring for ability power stacking on the Rise than the old Spirit Visage Rush days. When it comes to AoE Wombo, it's been heavily delayed. Beyond doesn't want to face check the Olaf.
That seems like a bit of a bad idea. Be able to clear out that control ward in the end, though. Have the pressure at his bot lane roaming up to try to back him up. Still just going to be slow and steady. Just that one kill coming through on to Max that we saw picked up there by Mowgli. Action has been pretty slow.
Well, if you think about how the game was set up, 3 winning lanes for MVP. It was supposed to be MVP making the action and monopolizing the Drakes and Rift Herald. That part never happened. And the successful gank in bot side and wrestling back vision control, one of Afreeca's best traits. There's some great vision control into this until...
The Grand Entrance coming through there. Max using the quickness does get them locked in, but Olaf can't be pushed back. As that Ragnarok up and Ian has to go running to the hills. Heal comes through to try to keep himself alive, but Max cannot see the same. He is going to go down for the second time this game, and Beyond might be joining him. Flash forward there, over the wall goes the Olaf. They have the lockdown on the pilot. He's got nowhere to go, completely cornered in the jungle. He gets punished. 2 more kills on the board for Afreeca.
You see that moment when the killer instinct realization came onto Afreeca that they could actually recommit to the fight and win it, and they won it handedly. So many summoners used by MVP. 7 throughout the course of 4 players. On the side of Afreeca, they turn onto the mountain. They keep up Flash on both of the bot laners as well. This was initiated by MVP. They go for the big player, but Ian needs to be the one to take this over. Kramer and Kuro move back, and as you mentioned, the Ragnarok is going to trivialize the impact. So second Shurima Shuffle leads to nothing. And then from there, they understand, let's just go for this. Everyone flashes over, try to make the play happen. They get close, they get a couple, but they turn it into a Mountain Drake. Those rough laning phases are meaning very little for how Game 2 is playing out.
He did technically hit the Shurima Shuffle this time around. It just didn't matter. So, it's a silver lining, I guess. He didn't completely whiff it, but MVP basically whiffed the engage there. Saw some kills, and, well, they got punished for it. They were wrong. Double Mountain Drake there for the Afreeca Freecs. It's going to make the Baron that much easier. We already saw, King's Zone, what they can do, what you can do with it. You can absolutely destroy that Baron early on. So now MVP has to be that much more on their toes to ensure that the Afreeca Freecs don't try to burn that down.
Silver lining is that a comp from Afreeca is actually very low Baron damage. When it comes to Anivia, for example, not really Baron damage. Vladimir has gone Spirit Visage, so 20% more of not that much is still going to be a decently slow Baron, but absolutely, as a general rule, the Mountain Drakes are something that have to be respected. Anivia's happy because he can just put down the ultimate in Q and clear the minions faster. The 20% amp is going to be important there. If MVP gets ahead, the stall is on with double Mountain Drake, let me tell you, on the side of Afreeca.
Oh, looking for another one. This time does scoop up the bird. Kuro trying to get his way out of there. Gets the stun. Gets a bit of damage in onto Ian. And he's got Mowgli here to back him up. But ADD joins in with a Realm Warp. Kuro flashes away, but he's just kind of putting himself in a bit of a corner here in the jungle.
Vladimir, though.
He now roaming down. They're going to turn it around. They're going to look for ADD. He's walled in, and he is going to get popped. Keen finds the kill, just a passive there onto Kuro. He stays alive, and MVP, yet again, they go aggressive, but they get punished for it.
I mean, Afreeca's just so smart in these skirmishes, actually getting Kuro away. It seemed like he was wasting summoners, but no, they trade up again. Now they're looking for the dive.
Glacial Fissure comes through. Max going to take a lot of damage. True Shot Barrage on the back end. Does clip his wings a bit. He will make it out with his life, but that's still going to be a turret going down first of the game. 20 minutes just about on the clock goes over to the Afreeca Freecs.
Start this game, it seemed like Afreeca would be happy with a peace treaty and just look for farming because of the laning phase. Good feelings in the mid lane with the dancers and the emotes, but they have been clinical in how they've played around losing lanes by just being so intelligent in the skirmishes. They finally draw out the egg, but it's a golden egg for a reason. Able to get plenty from that. They back away. All their items are in fantastic spots, especially given the fact that they were behind in terms of counter picks. Counter picks in 3 lanes to the tune of a 5,000 gold lead. Afreeca Freecs really once again flexing, this time on MVP.
4-0. Perfect game pace so far here from the Afreeca Freecs. MVP just have not been able to find anything at all on the Rift.
Every time they look into Nivea, it doesn't seem to matter what happens around it. They turn on and close to perfect game the opposition, so it seems to be their good luck charm.
Beyond being hunted here, little does he know. Kuro goes into the brush. They have the control ward. They know they're not in vision, but now they are. Well, no, that's just a trap, actually. Looking at the HP bar and assuming. Control ward comes down. Mowgli will be spotted now on an actual ward.
Map control, as you're alluding to, is a big problem here for MVP. That means that Nidalee is probably going to be the most trivialized. We've seen the Camille's go Warrior Enchant into Trinity Force and do nothing. This Nidalee is still desperately working on her Rod of Ages at 22 minutes into the game, which is a pretty significant problem. Magic resist stacking already beginning. We already outlined how much magic damage there is on the side of MVP, and Spirit Visage, the adaptive helm, already complete, more on the way.
Kuro just doesn't care. He's got a big shield. Passive going to be down for a little bit longer, but if the pace, the outcome of this game thus far tells us anything, it's that, well, he might just be okay. Since MVP just have not been able to get a single kill, despite trying quite a bit.
All the kills this game have largely come outside of the Olaf gank early in the game from MVP's aggression. So now they're going to be stalled, understanding the position they find themselves in. Some items coming together for Pilot, who now has 2 items and a Zeke's Convergence on his support. So at least there's damage there. Problem is that Olaf and Vladimir runs at him and actually getting the maximum value out of the passer is going to be tricky. With the double mountains, Afreeca at least start to threaten the Baron setup.
Pushing forward very deep here to get some vision thrown down. Cooper comes down as they try to clear out that ward, but seems like they might not be able to get it. Nope, Mowgli's got to back up.
Baron will have to be the way they win this game because their actual engage is almost 0. Engage is kind of Vladimir pooling in the back line.
Well, that's fine because MVP does the engaging for them.
It's true. And guess what? Starting a Baron forces engage. So if you're this far ahead in terms of map control, going 3 losing lanes and no engage, apparently can be a great thing. That's what we're learning from the side of Afreeca, making everything work.
Thought maybe MVP was turning into that, you know, one of those teams that always, well, to hold that thought actually is beyond maybe just getting caught here. Take a little bit of damage off the back of the Glacial Fissure and the Axe Toss. The Undertow.
I mean, the best thing about this game is that it's not like MVP have been bad. It's just that Afreeca have been better. They turn onto the Baron. Despite not having the fastest Baron, they're burning it pretty quickly. It's down to 3,000.
Scrying Orb comes down. Tucson trying to block them out of the pit. They'll just go ahead and peel off, though. Afreeca taking the measured approach. They know the implications of this game, of closing this out with a 2-0. So don't want to get overzealous and try to force out the objective.
One of the few ways to lose this game is to give up a Baron to MVP and allow them a way to play through the front door. Because right now MVP very much second to the Rift on everything. They back away, take a deep breath. They can always try it again. Olaf doesn't have a Warmog, so it's a more committal Baron than we see in recent games where double Warmog starts the Baron and laughs at the damage. They also have to be a little bit more on point when it comes to turning a bit earlier than the, say, 2,000 HP Baron turns we see sometimes else.
I mean, you saw how quickly they were able to burn down that Baron right there. Imagine if they, they actually had a better auto attacker and an ADC and like the Azir on their own side there in the mid lane. MVP are pushing over, clearing out the vision, but starting this up is still Far Cry hope there for them. Won't be able to find it. Afreeca just going to pick up their third dragon here of the game. It goes over to them. Keen taking a bit of damage here in the trade versus ADD, but he's a Vladimir, so he'll be good in the long run, as it turns out.
Yeah, the damage was slowed, but it's going to get there, and the Spirit Visage allows him to shake off some of the trades that were looking difficult in the early game. Still, Afreeca's plan right now is largely going to be about map pressure. It's very much about finding a way to strangle the life out of MVP. They can't rush Baron. They need to use Baron to turn, but then they don't have great turn CC unless the wall really is the big initiator for them. So actually making that happen is pretty narrow on the information available to MVP. Also, MVP happy to play side lanes. They have the Rise, Realm Warp, and Teleport available. It's not trivial to improve the position Afreeca find themselves on outside of maybe committing multiple people to taking the bot lane out of turret. But if they do that, then Baron is a realistic objective for their opponent. So while they're going to be happy with their scaling, for now being stalled out by the side of MVP.
Threatening and engage there onto Ian. Forces him to go ahead and shift back. Keen will be pushed out of this bottom lane as well, so ADD will be able to secure the first turret of the game here for MVP, which means no perfect game for the side of the Afreeca Freecs. So we'll be losing out on that, but I think they'll be quite happy just to get a 2-0 here.
Little golf clap from the crowd as MVP pick up their first objective. So the perfect game's over, Achilles.
It's done so. It's in the ground.
Somehow I think Afreeca will live as they continue to wrestle. It's frustrating, again, because of the comp they drafted, that it looks like they're playing around with their lead and allowing the game to slip, but there's really little they can do. If they invade for vision, they still require a wall or maybe flash Braum to engage something, and that's tricky when flashes are up on the side of MVP. Vlad is still not able to solo kill the Rise, so even 4-1 is difficult. Their siege is decent, but nothing fantastic to talk about, so kind of becomes this rinse and repeat around Baron, and then free Mountain Drakes and other objectives on the map for the side of Afreeca.
Yeah, just making sure that they hadn't started up that Baron. Control Ward denying that ward there in the back, and nobody triggering the traps that have been thrown down. Kuro trying to harass him. Force him back to base and maybe give a window of opportunity to start up that Baron and force MVP over.
Most surreal thing is the most realistic objective for Afreeca to force right now is to exhaust the amount of control wards in the enemy inventory. That's one of the few things they can actually track and do, is clear out control vision. But if if Rakan has room to shop, that'll come through.
Oh.
Now they're trying to push in as a team.
Ian threatening from below for the opportunity to go in for the Shurima Shuffle and actually try to profit from it this time. We're just going to have some trading back and forth here from Keen and ADD.
Such a good spot there. On the Baron, though, and we talked about exhausting that vision. For now, MVP. They see Mowgli and think they're off with it. They're not.
Yeah, that's just going to be the flash into the pit from Mowgli. Says, I'm getting in here for that smite. They take it away, really well baited by the side of the Afreeca Freecs.
Really tricky stuff. Second time in a couple of match days we see an Olaf flash over to get into the pit. You think as the enemy team, as MVP, you do your checklist and say, I see the enemy jungler. Blast plant is down. They can't do this. But this has happened twice now. Seems to be the newest next level from our jungle Olafs. And out of nowhere, they command a Banon. Very nicely done by the Afreeca Freecs. And this Banned up siege minion pushing in.
I think we can also call this one Maha, because Maha has led MVP to some losses. So we'll see if he can ride this one through in the top lane.
I mean, Maha has his favorite escort in the Braum, able to put up the big shield and a guarantee that 8 shots come through and thus turrets go down.
Something also that goes with Maha is that Sivir, and they really wish they had one right now to try to clear out that minion in the back line, but they just cannot get it yet. Keep moving Maha forward.
You just have to distract him. That's the best they can hope for, is that aggro someone else.
Oh,
Is Keen.
Yeah, he's going aggro here into the bottom side. Realm Warp going to come through, and ADD will get himself out. Almost dies in the Hemo Plague as the pop comes in. Wall comes down. Ian has to jump over to the side. Heal comes out as well, and everybody on the side of MVP is just retreating back towards the fountain to try to get topped up, but that's going to be the turret going down, and Maha starts opening up onto the inhibitor.
This Baron play has opened up the game that was in danger of being delayed. MVP against the banner with triple AP. Have only Pilot to poke it. No one else on their team can. That is kind of impossible for them to stop it, barring a full-on engage. A full-on engage is exactly what Afreeca Freecs want. So now the catch-22 that Afreeca was able to subvert by getting a very sneaky Baron is one that MVP have to be creative around. Look to Max, because to me, he's the only way they can start a fight. And do they even have the items to win one? Your first thought is no. MVP left with few good options, and that means that Afreeca Freecs looking to break the base in a second spot.
Finding a pick and then trying to take a 5v4 is likely the only way that they could truly win a fight, and even then, winning 5v4 might still prove difficult for them. Afreeca Freecs pushing in for yet another turret. We'll be able to take this down. Taking another big chunk off his HP bar from that True Shot Barrage. Kramer just keeps harassing out with the Mystic Shots.
No Siege Minion on that wave, so tuasen will hold on to the Banner of Command. 6 turrets to 1 now is the score. Otherwise, a perfect game for the Afreeca Freecs.
Triple Mountain on the way. Will be relevant for quite some time as they still have the Baron buff on them. But going to be another secure, a 4th Dragon for the side of the Afreeca Freecs to just go in with that Elder.
And we're going to call this banner in the bot lane Playoff Hopes. As MVP, unfortunately, might be taken out by Playoff Hopes.
Doing real well for Afreeca, but MVP not so much.
No. It might be the death knell for MVPs. So Playoff Hopes going to come up. He's got his Escort in Braum, and what an MVP to do against these Playoff Hopes?
Likely surrender. That's about it. Surrender to the Playoff Hopes, as they cannot get ahead of them. They distract Playoff Hopes. And they're going to go ahead and work this one down. A couple more hits to finish it out. And just like that, Afreeca Freecs Playoffs Hopes has died.
Oh.
Congratulations,
if only it was
KT.
that simple. Congratulations, KT Rolster. Well, maybe it's a prophecy. We're not to know, Achilles. But Keen in the side lane is a Void Staff short of doing some pretty decent damage and has gone through all the tricky laning times. Kramer and Afreeca pull back. They know that most of the hard work is done. Haven't been able to return to the scene of the crime yet. The top lane inhibitor is still up. But now the item builds are really ramping up for the side of Afreeca as Kuro has got the death cap. He's working on more. And MVP, they're still scaling. That's kind of the best thing to say, is that they will soon have a 10-stack Nidalee on the Rod of Ages, but that's it's a bit too little too late.
Yeah. Taking 23 minutes to finally get that item purchase in. And not even completed sacking, and he still just has scraps for a 3rd item, so yet again, and a bit of a rough spot is Beyond. Hasn't been his best series. And what I was going to say earlier is just, I was thinking for a while that maybe MVP was one of those teams that either rose or fell down to the level of whichever team they were playing against, seeing that, you know, their loss against Jin Air and the near loss versus Kongdu Monster made me think that, so I thought maybe they would rise to the occasion to face the Afreeca Freecs, but it seems like a no, but they're going to try to turn that around now, but Max goes in for the engage, gets the pop-up, but just gets absolutely smacked down. He gets popped, and now the rest of the members are trying to escape, but here comes Olaf, gets the slow in onto Pilot, pops the concussive blows, he'll go down as Kramer lands the Mystic Shot, and Keen comes in, he'll destroy Beyond. Hemo Plague will do the rest of the work, Shurima Shuffle comes through, Ian goes golden with just a scrap of HP, but he'll go down as soon as he comes out of that one. Inhibitors likely to die, the game likely to end. 33 minutes in, MVP cannot get a single kill on the board.
MVP try the engage, but that's exactly what Afreeca Freecs comp want. They don't have engage themselves, but damn do they have damage. ADD's gonna recall and watch up close and personal as Afreeca Freecs take down MVP 2-0.
One turret, the only thing making this not a perfect game here, but so damn close for the Afreeca Freecs. It will be a 2-0 victory. They lose out on tuasen right at the end as well. But a 2-0 victory keeps the hopes alive here. Another 2-0 versus BBQ next week And the Afreeca Freecs lock in second place over KT Rolster, just under Kingzone.
Yeah, the game score might allow them to actually stay away from having that last match of the season decide who will finish second, and thus only be one best of 5 away from joining Kingzone Dragon X in the grand final. MVP, their slim hopes of going to the playoffs have now been extinguished, and sadly, they now have to think about another playoffs as relegations also loom for one team out of the bottom quartet. Kongnu Monster, they're guaranteed to play in the promotion relegation. MVP, Jin Air, BBQ, these are the sort of teams that right now have to worry that they'll be joining Kongnu against some stiff opposition coming up from Challenger.
And even SK Telecom is technically a part of that list. As odd as it is to think about, but MVP, that is yet again going to be their fear moving forward. Have to step up the play. They have to get back into that groove they found themselves in for a while. Had the double 2-0 versus BBQ, a win versus KSV against the Rocks Tigers. This team can be good on the day, but today was not that day. They couldn't really perform against the Afreeca Freecs. A good start in game 1, but it all seemed to have fallen apart, and it just kind of bled over into game 2.
The thing is, you think about what they achieved. You know, good start in game 1, really nice draft in game 2, where they counterpicked 3 lanes.
They just didn't play it out.
And no massive mistakes, right? They didn't make huge whoppers that you can point at and laugh. If you think about it, you put all those things together, that probably beats a few teams in the LCK, a lot of competition around the world. It's just that Afreeca Freecs were better, and the glass half full thing is that after a very shaky early game in game 1, Afreeca Freecs, what they did in game 2, with very little firepower in their draft, is something to be scared of, because we probably won't see those 5 champions come together again, and yet they were surgically played by Afreeca. This was a wonderful performance in game 2 by the Afreeca Freecs with a very narrow draft. Do not try this at home, is what I would say about Vladimir, Olaf, Anivia, Ezreal, and Braum. But how it played, the 33-minute victory they did get, was a joy to watch.
It's excellently done there. Top of the damage does go over to ADD on the rise, but constantly chipping away at Vladimir, who is self-sustaining, does help you push those numbers up. But at the end of the day, Afreeca Freecs do get that 2-0. MVP, playoff hopes have been wiped out. 1 kill, 1 tower, the only thing separating them from being perfect games by Afreeca, the team that was doing that so very often last year. But our MVP is going to be Mowgli. So sorry, Kuro, we know you really wanted it, but Mowgli coming in, subbing in for game 2, does find himself with his first MVP win of the season. And
it's another thing that Afreeca Freecs can now take into those big matches with their playoffs already guaranteed is this guy can play. This guy, they've shown confidence in playing in game 1. Now he plays in a game 2 for the first time in a while, off the bench after a victory, and does very well on a meta pick that's away from the limited champions played last year. If you asked me about Mowgli in 2017, I would say, well, his Rek'Sai seemed pretty good, but why is he playing over Spirit? Now we're seeing that he can actually have an important role. Both their junglers have been firing situationally, and that is a really useful tool to use as the season goes forward.
This save here on Kuro, turning this one around. This punish on the MVP, it was just absolutely perfect. Kuro flashing away at the perfect time, not getting that rune prison onto him.
I mean, so many things had to be done in order for this to be a 1-0 for Afreeca. It seemed most people would have condemned the Anivia to defeat. It looked like Mowgli was, but it was actually just a next level on the rotational play. Beautiful stuff from Afreeca, a wonderful game from them. As by the end, they could just all Galavan in because MVP made the first move, they started the initiation, and Afreeca, they closed it.
Great job here from these guys. Kuro, no MVP wins for him, but we get to hear from Mowgli for the first time in 2018, so that's going to be quite nice. He'll be backed up by his senior partner on the team there in Tucson. So we'll go ahead and throw over to Joel for our translation as we hear from these guys.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Joel with your interview translations for today. We're here with Afreeca Freecs for the entirety of 2018. It has been very spectacular in showing off their consistent performances. And we see another example of a classy and a quick finish by these guys as we do see a 2-0 victory against MVP. We're going to be hearing from their MVPs of the game. We're here from Tucson and also Mowgli. 6th straight win for you guys, and really is a lot of the positive rate about Afreeca has been true, but Tucson is kind of a usual case here in their interviews. And you guys probably felt that the game was easy. How'd you feel? The first game, it was just a compositional win where the draft already gave us so much power over the other team. It was relatively easy win for us on game 1.
이 세트에 대한 약간의 우려 섞인 목소리를 말씀해 주셨는데 모글리 선수는 처음 이제
And Mowgli, this is your first ever MVP of 2018. How do you feel?
올해 처음이고 작년에
It is my first MVP this year, and I got one from Spo TV last year, and I'm shaking right now with excitement right now. How do you rate your plays today? Second game was a difficult composition for us to pull off, and I think the early game success that we found made it a little bit easier near the end, but it was a lot of help coming in from Tucson to make that happen. We're also here with Coach as well. I'm sure you haven't been here sitting in front of us right now. Would you like to introduce yourself? My name is Coach Lee Jaemin, Zepha from Afreeca Freecs. We knew that Afreeca Freecs had a little changes to their coaching staff. And what was the kind of the revision when it comes to how you guys coordinate with the team? And I think our head coach really tries to just look at the bigger picture of things, and I try to look into the minuscule details that could help the team out. I'm going to ask the players a little bit. And we know that the coach has been a player himself before, so I'm sure you understand the mindset. I mean, he definitely does understand the bot lane very well, coming from a very bot lane background for himself, so that really is a big help when it comes to really useful tips during our training methods. We felt like first game was exactly what you guys wanted with the Afreeca, how he got the win on that one. Anytime, you know, we kind of enter the game, we feel like Xayah Rakan won't get, pass through the bans, and this time around, and sometimes, you know, when we have the two duos, and when we have the duo available for us, it just really allows us to be at a comfort state that just allows us to kind of breeze through the game. It wasn't, that was a lot of surprising things coming from the opposition. Did that make you nervous? I mean, the Gragas did a very good job of getting the gank initially, so that could have went the other way for us, where if we didn't come back from it. But it's just all about the Xayah Rakan that gives so much power level to our team, and I knew that we were still going to win, even with that. Even through the gank at top, I just felt like it was okay, and we just kind of, but the next time later, but the following plays that came after the gank got him a little bit more nervous than we wanted him to. So I think he still did a good job of holding through, even through the difficulties. And right now, you know, with the Rakan, you have no losses with that champion in game. And let's look at one of the highlights of what led to another win in the books. And Tucson, you're just really known for these initiates that you can do with the Rakan. And the reason why so much attention has to be going for me, because I make that really hard initiate that allows the other allies of mine, it just gets them more comfortable to put out damage while I take all the kind of the aggro I'm putting in from the opponents. And we do see Tucson as kind of the candidate for the top MVP of this season. I think it's important to kind of focus on the win and focus on the championship before I go for these individual records. Well, you know, when my rivals in the MVP race is my teammates, it just makes it a little bit better that, you know, we have a little bit of direct conflict when it comes to for us having a little greed over this individual title. We don't say it to each other directly, but we definitely keep in mind for who wants to win it.
오늘은 좀 크로 선수가 좀 아쉬워하겠네요, 많이.
That silent rivalry just existing in the background.
Of course, Mowgli, yeah, all these guys are your big brothers here, but who do you feel is gonna get it at the end? If you can have answer that question.
아무래도
저희 팀 주장이어서가 아니라 그냥
I think not because he's the captain, but I think Kuro would get the MVP here. Even with Tucson right beside him, he still gives that very brave answer.
딜도 많이 하고 이러니까
And Kuro still puts out a lot of damage, and so maybe an implication that Tucson doesn't put enough damage.
살짝 표정이 어두워지고 제가 봤거든요.
Tucson's expression is getting darker by the minute, but as we keep saying, just the coach, it's really a lot of implications of what we're trying to get with the Afreeca Freecs. But what do you think about the kind of the composition with all the players right now?
제 같은 경우는 되게 근래 들어 좀 똑똑하게 잘 하는 편이고요.
For me, you know, I think it's important that all the players are smart about their plays, and
안정감이 좀 있는.
And stability is very important for these players here, and it's something that really allows us to be flexible in how we put out the competitions, and that allows us kind of a lot of freedom in the way we can win games. We actually thought that the game 2 victory led from the initial gank at bot lane, and we thought this was a very difficult gank to pull off. How'd you feel about that one? We knew that Nidalee could be on her way as well, so we were just trying to get this kill as fast as we can and just get out quick before Nidalee can come in. And that was a situation where I had to worry about the top lane at the same time as well, so we were just trying to get the gank off as quickly as we can, just head off to the next phase after we were done with it.
원래 또 정글러들이 술술 이렇게 생각을 저렇게 많이 해야 되거든요.
본인은 탑만 가시나요, 요즘에?
I mean, right now you're talking about junglers right now, but I want to ask you another question. Is that in game 2 and Nidalee Olaf was a matchup, and it just seems like Olaf gotten a little bit better, but a lot of people do say that there is a kind of a duration rate in where it falls off. I think I do agree. It's like it does go off, but against Nidalee, Olaf did always well as a counter matchup. So just kind of relying on that matchup that I knew would go strong, especially in the early game. And having that experience before that, having played against Nidalee with Olaf, that's the reason I picked it today.
그런 것들은 이미 다 대비가 돼 있었다. 네. 이미 뭐 준비가 이렇게 됐기 때문에.
And it seems like he was very much a prepared pick for Mowgli here.
이제 남은 경기가.
Well, let's talk about the remaining games with BBQ and KT left remaining.
마지막 KT전이 또 중요할 수밖에 없는데.
And of course, KT game would be very, very important for you guys. But any last words heading into those games?
KT도 아마 저희랑 남은 대진이 비슷하더라고요.
I think KT should have a very similar schedule in regarding what kind of opponents they have. And I think I wish them all the best of luck, but at the same time, we want our Afreeca organization to have a little more wins than they can. That's kind of the hope that we're having.
네, 모글리 선수도. 네, 부탁드리겠습니다.
Mowgli, anything you'd like to say? This was our first time after establishment of the organization to get a 6 straight wins, and we want to just extend that as much as we can. So continue to win streak and also to get to the spring finals as well.
네, 모글리 선수에게도 큰 박수 부탁드리겠고요. 우리 코치님 또 팀을 대표해서.
Coach, anything you'd like to say for the team and representing the squad here?
팀을 대표해서 한 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
예전 선수 시절도 막 생각나고 그래요.
네.
Having a hard time. I think it might be a very much an emotional moment for him, with his team doing so well. It is my first time that I get to say stuff like this, and the team is going so well with all these great things happening to us, and we just want to really continue on with this as much as I can. And that will be just another classic example of how Afreeca can be so strong here at the LCK. With the ending of the interview, we're going to send it back to you guys.
Thank you very much. I mean, Sefa really should be proud. This guy has gone through a lot to get to this point, formerly coaching on Kongdu Monster. He was a big reason why they had a rise in the last season, but got sick things fell apart for that team, but now he's found a home on the Afreeca Freecs, and they have just been taking names left and right.
I mean, what a storyline for him. Like you mentioned, going to Worlds with Argent White Shield in 2014, being ascribed a lot of respect on Kongnu Monster, going through 2 cancer scares, and now jumping on to the Afreeca Freecs, and they look stronger than ever with Comet and Zephyr helping out I Love Uve on the coaching side. Everything is coming together and coalescing to make Afreeca our second best team in Korea. I think anyone would agree that right now they are right up there. If they win their next match, they will be plus 17, and thus the result of the KT series may not matter. Speaking of KT series, guys, after a long break, it's just after 7 p.m. Korean Standard Time, around 50 minutes, we will have BBQ Olivers, fresh off beating one Telecom War team, take on the other one in KT Rolster. Guys, you're looking for something to do in the break. There is some great LPL action happening, so twitch.tv/LPL1. That is actually the 5-year anniversary of the LPL starting. So go join the LPL, have some fun there. But if you come back in 50 minutes, where will KT be at? Because after a big loss, historically, sometimes they're on the up, sometimes they're on the down.
Yeah, go treat yourself with some kills in the LPL, because when we come back for our matches, might be pretty dry, might not have that much blood on the Rift. We'll find out, though, when we come back in 50 minutes for KT versus BBQ. So don't go anywhere. Just pop over to the LPL. We'll see you guys right back here then.
Coming up next, BBQ Olivers, KT Rolster, beginning of the end. 2018 League of Legends Champions Korea Spring Split.